If you're asking me what the top 5 Pixar movies are, somewhere on the list is going to be the movie Incredibles. Incredibles is the incredible movie about a family of superheroes who go into hiding because all of a sudden people don't like heroes. But as Bob, Mr. Incredible himself, tries to moonlight as a hero once again in the future, he finds himself thrusted back into the world of superheroism, fighting an evil villain named Syndrome. What makes Syndrome such a dangerous foe? Well, it's the fact that Bob kind of created them. Today on Geek Devotions, we're talking about how the words and actions of today can affect the enemies and heroes of tomorrow. Hello, Devoted Geeks, and welcome to Geek Devotions, a show from Devoted Geeks, who are devoted to letting you know that you're loved. So if you're new to our show, we take geek pop culture items like movies, video games, comics, and we use them to let people know they're loved. So if you don't watch past this moment, know this: we love you, we care about you. There is a plan and a purpose for your life. Don't give up. For us here at Geek Devotions, it is Pixar Month, which means all of our Friday episodes are going to be based on movies from Pixar, including the new movie coming out later this month called Elementals. But as I said in my intro today, we are looking at the film The Incredibles. And in this film, we have kind of an awkward situation where Mr. Incredible himself, with a very regular name Bob, is facing a villain named Syndrome. But again, the problem with Syndrome is that he is a villain of Bob's own design. See, in the beginning of the film, you discover that Bob had a bit of a fanboy problem. We had a young man who was following around wanting to be the incredible kid, and Bob wasn't having it. Now, legitimately, the kid was annoying, he was getting in the way, he was causing problems, somebody, including himself, was going to get hurt. And finally, at the end of the day, Bob puts him in his place and says, I work alone. You're not affiliated with me. And just throws the kid in a cop car and he's done with him. Later in the film, Syndrome reveals the fact that that is the pinnacle moment that did a switch in his brain. Being rejected by his hero made him go down a path to be a villain. So what could Bob have done to avoid this? There's a very old proverb that I believe speaks to the situation really clearly. It's Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21. It says this: death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. The proverb talks about the fact that the things that we say can bring death or they can bring life, depending on how we use it. And depending on what we say, we will reap, we will eat the fruit of that down the road. In that situation, Bob was not speaking kindly to young man. Again, very reasonable situation. He's frustrated. The kid's been annoying. He's gotten people, he's gotten in the way. He's got to get people hurt. But instead of speaking into the young man, saying, look, I see the gadgets, I see what you got going on here, but this is not the time for you, he just shuts the kid down. He speaks death over a situation, and as a result, later down the road, Bob suffered greatly. Now, this is a situation that can be difficult. When every time you're dealing with correction, it's awkward. There's a struggle of how to handle the situation, especially when it's a dangerous one, and where the correction needs to take place quickly. So how do we do it? How do we handle this? How do we speak life and bring correction to people around us? Well, I think that the answer can be found in another passage that's found in the scriptures, which is Mark chapter 12, verse 31, which says this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. In this verse, Jesus is talking about the great commandment. There are two, he takes out all the commandments of the prophets, and they're hanging on two things: love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength, and then love your neighbor as yourself. And this aspect of loving your neighbor as yourself is important because I feel like people forget about it. When we see the world around us, when we see people and we deal with people, we need to show love and care for them just as we would want somebody to love and care for ourselves. Now, there's some people out there that they have this, they try to be this machismo. They're like, oh, well, just give it to me straight. I can take it. But the reality is that you'll be the first ones to bow up and get angry and prideful when somebody tells you you're being stupid. Now, on the flip side of that, I'm not talking about, just kid gloves and being happy and friendly all the time and, oh, it's okay, little Johnny, here's a trophy for doing nothing. We're not talking about that, but we are talking about when we bring correction, when we're dealing with people, we need to keep in mind how we'd want somebody to do that with us. And that means speaking life to individuals. Yes, we had to bring in things that are wrong, and we had to correct those things and bring those into a healthy position, but we need to do it in a way that brings life, that speaks hope, that lets them know that there is something more to them than what was wrong with them at the moment. I think one of the problems is we live in a world where we focus so much on all the faults in people. We see what's wrong with them. We see their addictions. We see their habits that are just harmful and painful. We see their disorders, and we call those out. And then at the same time, we sometimes even glorify the problems that are in their lives instead of bringing correction to them because we're scared of causing problems in people's lives. But there is a way of doing things. When we correct people, when we draw attention to problems, when we are handling situations, there is a way to do it lovingly and caringly that speaks life, so that we don't grow up in the future with another syndrome because we spoke without thinking. This now brings us to our question of the week, which is a two-parter. One, what is your favorite Pixar movie? And two, what is something you've learned from that Pixar movie? Leave a comment down below and let us know. While you're at it, let us know what you guys thought about today's devotion. How's it encouraged you? How's it challenged you? How can we help you take your next step with God, walking this out? As I said, this is a challenging thing. I know that as a leader, I've had struggles of walking with people, bringing correction, and there have been times where I have at fault not spoken life and spoken hope to an individual, and I've had to repent of that. And if that's your story, let us know how you walk those situations out. I want to take a moment to give a special thank you to all of our devoted Patreon geeks who support Geek Devotions. Thanks to you guys, we're able to do what we do on a weekly basis with our podcasts, our website, the articles and devotions that we put out on a regular basis. That is happening partially because devoted Patreon geeks helped fund what we have and what we do, and we are so thankful for you. And if you'd like to become a devoted Patreon geek, visit our website geekdevotions.com, click our support page where you can find out how to become a devoted Patreon geek or even give a one-time gift. But hey, even if you're not a devoted Patreon geek, maybe you're not in a place where you can help support us financially, I want you to know this: we appreciate you watching this episode, watching these videos all the way through, sharing them out, and encourage other people to check out Geek Devotions. That helps us tremendously. It's not necessarily about the numbers, it's not necessarily about the number of views that we get, but it's about changing lives. And you sharing this, putting it out in front of people who need this message, needing to know that they're loved and they're cared for, that is the greatest thing you could do for us. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, stay devoted. Peace and love.